Good evening. I've been asked many times why I started Citizens Guard over 16 months ago and it's just becoming a group proper offline. I started this group when after several years of protesting I found that I had no rights whatsoever. No right to due process, no right not to be destroyed, no right to equality, no right to free judicial help, no right to food or water, no inherent rights, no civil rights, and no enforceable human rights, and the entirety of all of what I've just said is not honoured by Parliament and those we choose to represent us. Like so many other people in our country, I didn't lose my children. I didn't lose my company. I didn't lose my right to due process, and I didn't lose my livelihood. I didn't lose my future and all I had worked so hard for. They were lawfully taken away from me. I have been running this group, the limited paper I distribute every now and again, the constant protests in emails and writing. I do it on a zero budget. Why? Because I don't have anything. I have PTSD. It won't be treated. So my budget is zero. In the last 16 or 17 months, it has been difficult in sorting out the kind of people I do not want in this group. And certainly the people I do not want following me. Thugs, half-wits, fools and idiots. I can go across the road, I got a pub right opposite, I can pick up 10 to the dozen. It's difficult to comprehend the lack of rights you actually have until you challenge the state to honour those rights. It's then that the legalese experts goes to town on you. They redefine the meanings, they move the goalposts all over the place, until you're so confused you get mental health problems because of the legal mis and disinformation and autocratic nonsense they're putting you through. By the time you've done all this for years on end, it leaves you feeling very alone, very vulnerable, and not much hope or direction on where you're going to go to do next. So I march alone, knowing that alone I got no chance of winning my fight, but with no options other than ballistically venting my mind, I keep going. Below is I've been reading out issues that I want you to protest because these rights are important. Without these, the state does what they want. The inherent right to food and water. The inherent right to prosper under your own hard work and merit. The inherent right to free judicial defence, because if you're poor, you have no defence at all. The inherent right to due process before they punish you, which is usually quite useful. The right to live in peace, without all this constant aggravated worrying going on around us and being driven around in our minds by lunatics. The right to freedom of speech and thought. The right to honest representation by our parliamentarians, because they are the biggest bunch of crooks history has ever known. These people get away with a lot. The right to a policed parliament. Everything we do is policed. Everything they do is not. The right to be policed by common consent and not this parliamentarian direction that we're getting at the moment. We have no police officers. They're Mickey Mouses. They have the same authority as the manager of McDonald's. Because they're privatised. Simple. I want the right to refuse. And that's not happening anymore. The YCD protocol to Parliament is the things that we should protest and the things that we have to get in writing that British politicians cannot do to us. You and me. The things they can't do to us. You can't continue protecting known paedophile suspects in Parliament the House of Lords, and all the other major institutions of our nations. These people are suspect of heinous crimes against children. And I was one of them children. So there's no allegedly about this. You can't continue protecting known paedophiles in Parliament. You can't continue to protect non-banking criminals who are still stealing from us in the reformatted PPIs. You can't continue borrowing hundreds of billions of pounds in the name of the people to pay for 1.6 trillion pounds worth of professional banking offences. You can't continue to remove the rights, and especially the civil rights of people, in favour of international companies who then force you to work for 0-hour contracts. You can't plan on 0 hour. You can't have aspirations on 0 hour. You can't continue to give the working life of a citizen to a company for free. If you work, you deserve a wage. Simple. You can't keep letting the super elite dictate the values of our nation. We are the people. We are the country. And our opinion should matter. But it doesn't. You can't keep having wars with other nations without us at least having an opinion about this, as a people, in Parliament first. You can't keep making up legislation that overrules the basic human rights of the individual to peace and a happy existence. You can't just destroy people. You can't keep forcing laws, legislation, corporate laws and all this nonsense without the majority of the people saying, okay, we're kosher with this. You can't keep forcing our nation the choice of eating or eating, whilst letting power companies and food companies abuse the civil and human rights of the people that they're supposed to serve. You can't control us with guns or militia, or city marshals, or exclusion zones. You can't remove free legal aid to the population. What is Citizens Guard? We're a non-political organisation, defending and protecting the inherent human and civil rights of the individual. Our objectives are to bring our realities to the reality of these politicians, celebrities and super elite, and those abusing the population en masse. And they do so with the full protection of Parliament and the judiciary. Cameron knows what's going on. We need to abolish the illness and treatment of overcreativity in children and arrest those responsible for this politically driven illness for crimes against humanity. Without creativity, I wouldn't be talking to you. I'd be doing smoke signals. I'd be chasing some bloody great animal with a spear in my hand and hoping that I'm going to get lunch. I can walk over to the corner, press a couple of little buttons, deet, 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 and I've got a meal. This is what overcreativity produces. Why would any politician want to stop that? Because they can't pay and they can't give 6 billion aspirations. They don't know how to. We need to abolish and prosecute anybody in the DWP who has had contact with any individual who has taken their own life due to the process of the DWP. We need to arrest the politicians involved in this and put them on trial for crimes against humanity. They have to date killed, indirectly, 64,000 people. Add that up. Add that up. 64,000 people have lost their life. We invaded Afghanistan for less than 2,000. The ministers responsible for this need to stand in a court. They need to answer for these deaths. We need to abolish legalese as a language and criminalise the use of this language outright. In politics, policing, the judiciary, just ban it altogether. It is probably the most twisted language meant for professional con men. I say to you, do you understand? You say to me, yes, I understand. You've now given me the authority to arrest you. What? This is what legalese is. It's a language used by professional con men, masquerading as lawyers, I might add. These lawyers made all these rules that we're objecting to. They know they're wrong. They know they shouldn't have done this. But they've done it anyway. When Hitler's lawyers were all writing these laws to dust off the poor, the homeless, the disabled, the elderly, when they had finished with the first set of misfits, they then marched on the rest of the population and then their world. If you don't understand what our politicians think, look at history. It repeats itself. It's like a hamster. It goes round and round and round and round and round until it falls off. Every now and again we have a world war, but we go back into the hamster wheel. We need to use the common law as criminal law. We need to be able to prosecute politicians under criminal law. And this is where they get us. They take everything that we have and reduce it to civil offences if they do it to us. A politician agrees to take the food off the homeless. A policeman goes up, takes the food off the homeless. That homeless person owns that food. That policeman has just stolen that food. But not according to Parliament. That man might die because he has no food. That's not threatening his life according to Parliament. You're moving him on. He's a public nuisance. The point that you've removed his food, you've removed his possessions from him, gets ignored. What's going to happen when they come marching down your doorstep one day? Think about this. They get away with what they do because they have decreed that the offences that they commit are civil offences, and the same offences, if we commit them, are criminal offences. We need the law changed. So human rights violations are criminal offences and not civil offences. We need to lawfully arrest and, if appropriate, try anyone found to have been covering up criminal activities in our national institutions. Whether it's institutional paedophilia, whether it's covering up for it, which is a criminal offence. Covering up for the crime is just as bad as the crime. I know this. We need to abolish the banking and political laws of mis-selling. Cameron and the government decided that so the bankers didn't get prosecuted, all these offences that they had committed of fraud, libel, rigging, PPIs, false PPIs, theft, robbery, false accountancy, yada 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 yada. All these criminal offences were reduced to mis-selling. If I went into a bank with a shotgun, stuck it up underneath somebody's nose and said, I want your money, it would be robbery. These people robbed, to date, nearly £1.6 trillion worth of offences against us. And our politicians said that was kosher. what made it even worse is we are being forced through our taxes to pay back this money that these bankers lost. They lost it in gambling debts. And we have to pay the money back. If I went round the corner to a drug dealer, get my point here, we are paying for criminal offences, and that's all there is to it. Bankers committed to criminal offences, politicians let them away with it, lawyers changed the law to allow it, and we are doing not a lot about it. We need to reclaim all this money back. We don't need to be in this situation. We need to reclaim the money back off of these bloody crooks who took it in the first place. Greece is being strangled because she doesn't want to pay the debt. Okay, she did borrow more and her banks did lose a lot more, but the principle's still there. She wouldn't be in the problem if the bankers hadn't caused the problem. And now those very same bankers from the International Monetary Fund are saying, you owe us £1.6 billion. We pay over £1 billion a week in interest on this debt that we've got because of the bankers. We've got a debt because of somebody else's criminal offences. Never in history has a population had to stand up and say, I've had my money stolen and now I'm going to have to pay to replace it. Because that's what we're doing. We are replacing stolen money. And our politicians are telling you this is legal. Lawful. Think about this. Salut.